Right. Well, well, thank you everybody for being here today. This is the workshop for learning to be a candidate. We have some dynamic speakers on in tow for you tonight to give you this information, the raw information that you need to mount a successful campaign. So thank you very much. Share my screen here. Again, this is a practical roadmap to being in local office. Our facilitators and speakers for this entire program will have Brother Johnnie Welborne from Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, who is our local chapter president, Miss Sister Deborah Davis-Gillespie from Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the Epsilon Xi Omega chapter president, Mr. Chris Duncan, who is a former mayor of San Clemente, Miss Karen Brennan, who is a senior marketing executive with a ton of knowledge, Mr. Marcus Bush, who is the deputy mayor of National City, Mr. Rob Howard, who is the Oceanside Fire and Police Commissioner, Mr. Will Rodriguez Kennedy, who is currently the San Diego Democratic Party chair, Sister Toria Frederick, who is the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated International Program Chair, and she is the chapter's advocate for social justice chair as well. And me, Rod Matthews. I am the City of Vista Community Block and Development Grant Commissioner. So for our agenda for this day is going to be a virtual session. We're going to do a welcome and a framing. Then we're going to go over what the political landscape is going to be brought to you by Deputy Mayor Marcus Bush and Chris Duncan. The campaign building blocks is going to be brought to you by Ms. Karen Brennan. She's going to get into marketing and how you really craft your speech. And then I'll help close this thing out. So we'll begin by getting a quick message from our chapter presidents, beginning with Brother Johnnie Welborne of Zeta Sigma Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Hey, good evening. How's everybody doing? I know some of you might be thinking, hey, is this another workshop, another speech? Let me tell you, this one's going to be completely different. Tonight isn't just about theory. It's going to be talking about action. It's going to be talking about turning our ideas and aspirations into real impactful change for our communities. Alpha Phi Alpha has always been about service and leadership. Since 1906, we've been committed to developing leaders who not only represent the communities, but also fight for the change we need. Our fraternity has produced giants, people like Brother Andrew Young and Brother Wes Moore, who've really shaped our nation. But let's be honest, the work is far from finished. Our communities still face urgent challenges such as housing affordability, education equity, and racial disparity. These issues demand more than just our attention. They demand leadership from people who truly understand the complexities that we face, and not just any leadership, but we need diverse thoughts, committed leadership, and we need it to be reflective of the communities that we're serving. So tonight's workshop and even next week is designed to help you become that leader. It's not just about learning how to navigate the political landscape, but it's about realizing that the power to change things is in your hands. Whether you choose to run for office, advocate for better policies, or mobilize your community, this today and next week is going to be about giving you the tools to lead. One of the cornerstone programs that we have that we're most proud of is our Voteless People, Hopeless People initiative. This program began with the simple yet profound goal to ensure that our voices are heard at the polls. Over the years, it's helped countless individuals realize the importance of voting, but we've evolved. Voting is essential, but we're now focused on ensuring that our voices are heard in the halls of power. So it's no longer enough to simply vote. We need our brothers and sisters to step up, run for office, and represent our values and positions of leadership. It's time to take our rightful place at the table, not just as voters, but as decision makers. So this workshop just isn't a class, it's the beginning of a movement. This is where we start to build the next generation of leaders who are going to take the problems that we're faced and they're going to face them with urgency and make them into the vision that we all deserve. As a collective of Black fraternal organizations, civil rights groups, and community partners, we're stronger together, and it's time for us to use the strength of our unity to build a lasting pipeline to leadership. So I challenge each of you, don't just think about the change you want to see, be that change. Let's get to work, let's create a future, and let's make it happen now. Thank you all, and I look forward to seeing everybody as they step into their roles of leadership in the days ahead.
Thank you, Brother Welborne. Thank you so much. And next, Sister Deborah Davis-Gillespie, who is the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated Epsilon Xi Omega Chapter President.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Again, my name is Deborah Davis-Gillespie, and I serve as president of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated Epsilon Xi Omega Chapter. Service to all mankind is who we are and what we do. Leadership in communities is our hallmark, and helping others become effective leaders is a mission. Welcome to Pathways to Public Leadership, your guide to public service workshop. If you were able to attend the community forum last Saturday, you were in the room where it happened and were able to gain insight into serving in a public office and what it takes to get there. Now, building on that momentum, we welcome you to use this workshop as a tool to learn about yourself and how to take action to claim your seat at the table. Our community needs great leaders, and this is one step in unleashing your desire and talent to learn, to lean in, and make a difference and incite impactful change to build stronger communities. Most often, that change starts with one person, one idea, one dream. Let's fuel your dreams. Let's not just talk about change, let's become the change. Prepare to walk away from this workshop with tools to get you started. Thank you for investing in yourself and your respective communities. Enjoy.
Thank you so much for those warm words. Next, we'll be moving to Sister Toria Frederick, who is the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated International Program Chair and the Epsilon Xi Omega Advocate for Social Justice Chair. And she's also partnered with me on this, putting this together. So, Sister Frederick.
Thank you so much, Brother Rod. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. On behalf of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Epsilon Xi Omega Chapter, I am very excited that you have chosen to step up and show up in a way that can be powerful for our community. You've taken the first step by being here and showing that you are interested in not just knowing how to advocate for yourself, but advocate for your communities. It means you're curious, you're committed, and you're considering the possibilities of taking your leadership to the next level, be it running for an office, for a board, or even for a more public role that shapes our communities. But one of the things that I want to challenge you all to do today, as you're thinking about the next steps in your journey, is to think about your why. Why you, and more specifically, why now? So I want you to pause this video and I want you to give yourself a moment and write down one sentence as to first, why you, and second, why now? Why are you the right person to be in this leadership role? Why are you the right person to advocate for your communities? And specifically, why now? Why is today the day that you decide that you want to make that first step in your journey? So pause the video, write it down, and we're going to ask for your why later. I want to make sure that you share it with us. So thank you again for being able to take that first step, and I look forward to seeing how you continue to grow in this journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Frederick. Thank you for your dedication to this cause and this effort. So now we'll move on to our session one, which is going to be mapping your district and having a local law deep dive. We're going to begin this session with the Deputy Mayor of National City, Mr. Marcus Bush, and then we'll be joined by Mr. Chris Duncan here, who's the former mayor of San Clemente. So we'll begin our session one with Mr. Marcus Bush. Mr. Bush.
All right. Well, thank you, Brother Broad, and thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. And yeah, I'm excited to continue the conversation. I really appreciate the discussions we had, the insight and the knowledge, and the experiences, the stories that we shared this past Saturday. So I definitely want to keep that momentum and that candor going here, and want to be strategic. And it's like I see a lot of value in a smaller group. Because I think it's an opportunity to get some of the work done and kind of hear, and we can kind of more brainstorm and have like more of a discussion. So I want to go through kind of like the outline here, going over some background and statistics, sharing my story, who National City is and the stats and the importance of the districting, and the voter demographic and key stakeholdering, as said in the PowerPoint, the community pain points. But like, really, what does that all mean, and how each of us can kind of implement that, and how I'm implementing it now? That's kind of what I want to like go over for about maybe 10 minutes. And then really, I love like I said last time, I love that Q&A, the kind of discussion, the engagement, and the back and forth conversation. And I don't hold back, so don't hold back on me. So any burning questions or anything that doesn't make sense, yeah, please let me know. With that, we're talking about mapping the district. Right here is a slide, and Brother Rod, if you don't mind allowing the share screen with me so I can toggle with it a bit. So I don't have a PowerPoint presentation for you guys. I just wanted to kind of go over this verbally and pull up some statistics that I prepared just from Google. Everyone can access it, and as well as our website or district map, and kind of go over this. But
You should be able
when
to share it
we're
now.
I'm sorry.
You should be able to share your screen.
Okay, awesome. So, and I'll wait before sharing. I just a point before I like dive into it. When we're thinking about mapping or district, that's the title of this conversation, is mapping or district. But really, for me, when I read that, it's not just mapping your district. It's actually getting to know your district is really what it's about. And then going even deeper, who is your district? Like, who is your neighborhood? I mean, really, who are you, right? Who are there's the why, but then like in some ways before the why, it's who are you? Like, who is the community? What's the history? And it's the race, the demographics, which I'm going to go over the demographics and give you kind of some insight into National City, my community, just as an example, so that each of you can think of your guys's groups, communities, or the communities where you're trying to recruit leaders to serve. So that's important, right? The surface level, the race, the economic demographics, there's very extensive mapping and data on the breakout between Republicans, Democrats and independents and others. But like, so that's only one piece of information that only tells you, that gives you some indication, that tells you some of the story. But really going even deeper when we're talking about knowing our districts and who we are, it's what is their culture. So not just the race, the economic demographics, like whether, what level of poverty a community is in, or even the crime rate, but what is the culture? How do people talk? How do people dress? What are some of the common, I mentioned crime earlier, but what are some of what, like, every community has different levels of crime. A lot of people would be surprised to learn that Del Mar, the city of Del Mar, which is one of the wealthiest enclaves in San Diego County, that actually has a pretty high crime rate because of their car thefts. So it's kind of like a blip, right? You can use different crime statistics to tell a story, but really you have to know the history, the culture. Some communities like mine deals with some gang violence, but also a disproportionate amount of domestic issues, domestic violence, alcoholism. And so that's getting into the issue level, and then combined with the culture, right? How do our different cultures deal and confront with those issues? So that's kind of high level, what I just want to give a background on. But let me go ahead and share my screen and pull up our interactive map on National City. Let's see, I'll pull that up a minute. And National City for, I think I talked about it a little bit with you guys. National City, we actually have we are a challenged community when you look at our demographics. We have the high. Let me just pull this up really quick while I give you these statistics. So just so you guys can see it too, so you know I'm not making it up. Let's see. Share. Okay, can you all see my screen? Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So National City, we're actually the second oldest incorporated city in San Diego County. We were incorporated in 1887. Before this, we also need to acknowledge and remember this was Kumeyaay land for thousands of years before that. So we always need to make sure to recognize that because they're still here as well, and they were the original stewards of this land. But National City, when you look at these statistics, and I'll just kind of summarize it for you all, but we're 60,000. So we're, even though we're small compared to like San Diego's 1.3 million, right? So we're relatively small, but we're the densest city in the county. We have the highest rate of poverty. We have one of the lowest household income median levels, one of the highest crime rates, some of the highest rates of asthma and cancer. So that's kind of like the bad statistics, right? But when you really peel back those layers and the why and some of the other, you see that we're also the most diverse city in the county. 90% people of color, 60 lost the other statistic, but it's right here. So 53%, and this is broken down into more of the subgroup detail, that's even more useful information because typically when you're breaking down demographics, you see Latinos grouped into one, and it's important to recognize which group of Latino you're dealing with. So predominantly here in the San Diego County, you're dealing with Mexican Americans, including myself and my family. That's the predominant group. And then, of course, you have Puerto Ricans and Cubans. But again, knowing the culture, the type of Spanish you're speaking, the food, the cuisine, all of that is really important. We have the highest rate of Filipino population in the county. So it's us, and kind of Mira Mesa is also a big neighborhood that has a high Filipino population. And it's estimated about 6% Black. I actually think it's like closer to 10%. I think we're often really underreported in the census. But when it comes to these breakdowns, the whole reason that we have districts is because of the California Voting Rights Act. So that was passed in 2001. Basically, that ensures that cities are their elected official makeup is reflective of the communities they serve. So there's been I won't get into it in details, and we can go back, and if you guys have questions, I can go into this in more detail. But basically, cities, and luckily not as bad as San Diego. San Diego was early on in making sure that District 4, which is Southeast San Diego, the historically a Black district, that was passed even before and ensured even before the California Voting Rights Act. So basically, that act enshrined and made sure that there was more of District 4. So what we saw after that in the early 2000s, we saw the creation of more Latino districts, more Asian districts, more LGBTQ queer districts. So National City, because we're smaller, it's kind of harder to kind of carve us up. But we actually just got into districts, implemented it 2 years ago. So when I was first elected in 2020, I was elected citywide. But in 2024 is when we started implementing districts. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up our interactive map so that you guys could see. Can everyone see let me make sure I'm pulling up the map. Can everyone see the map?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Sir.
Okay, cool. So just real quick, I'll run through this as quick as I can. So we're kind of split into quadrants. the whole reason that we became into districts is because we didn't have sufficient Filipino community representation. So basically, there was a lawsuit filed where members of the Filipino community challenged our city and said that, you know, we have been discriminatory because we haven't had district elections and we haven't had a Filipino rep. And it's true, the last Filipino representative that we had in National City was Rosalie Sarate, and that was back in I think it's 2012. So for a big chunk of time, even though we had some of the highest Filipino population in San Diego County, we didn't have Filipino representation. So if you can see, I'm going to zoom in National City. And those of you that know National City, you know, one of the things that we're known for is our Filipino culture, our food, and kind of the arts, karaoke, and those things. So how this map, it looks kind of funny how it was carved, but when we looked up the data and the population groups, even though in general you're going to find Blacks, Latinos, whites, you're going to find everyone really dispersed, but you'll still see kind of clusters. And so this right here is District 3, and that's our largely our Filipino district where there's a big cluster of Filipino population. Even though Latinos are still the majority, it's still important that the Filipino group has representation. So we have that. If you're looking at the Black population, that is generally dispersed throughout. But if I had to call it anything, historically speaking, in National City, the northern part of National City, Surround Division, East 4th Street, some of even Ditas's district, District 2, District 3, excuse me. A lot of the Black community traditionally is in has been in District 2. And a lot of that was a lot of us come from Navy veteran families and military, and that's where a lot of the redlining allowed for Blacks to purchase homes. And I will say, just looking at this map, this area was a lot more Black back in the day. And then you'll see this freeway here. It's a total side story, but the Southcrest neighborhood, that was also largely Black, and that's where a lot of the Black neighborhoods they targeted for freeway construction. And this one was Route 252. So this segment actually destroyed a lot of Black families and neighborhoods. So just want to point out, because it's important when it comes to the political power and why this conversation is on districts is important. So then just to wrap it up, we have District 1, which is the west side. That's our harbor, and that's our of the vast majority is Latino and Mexican on the west side of National City. And then we have where I'm from, and I'm actually from Lincoln Acres. I was I was raised in Lincoln Acres, and we have the southeast part of National City, and that's District 4. Also very diverse. It's Plaza Bonita, our landmarks, and in Las Palmas, the golf course, Olive Gardens. So that's just wanted to give you guys a layout of let me stop this share screen here. So just wanted to give an overview of that, because yes, it's important to know the demographics and all of that, but the stories, what are the issues? And I'll tell you guys in National City, the issues are, like I mentioned, we have high rates of asthma and cancer. If you saw the map, we have freeways crisscrossing our communities. We have the port, industrial operations. So all that pollution, all that contributes to our high rates of asthma and cancer. And so like that's an issue that we are still working through, because it's the system that allowed that to happen. And so that system is always going to resist any pushback to undo the harms they cause. So that's overall just kind of my presentation about overview of districts, and yeah, I'm open for Q&A to talk about any questions on my experience or kind of what I can see moving forward, how we organize based on mapping and districts. Any questions?
Any questions at all? Well, I have a question for you.
Yep.
In your district, how would you know what number you need to win your district? How would you find that out?
Yeah, so there's two systems that most candidates use. It's one is PDI, another is Vote Builder. So all of that, I use one of my friends who's really good at this. Her name is Sonara Velasquez, and she's really involved with the Democratic Party. And so the Democratic Party often purchases a lot of this voter database material, and then you would look it up. You would depending on what you're doing. So if you're campaigning for office, you want to look up who your target universe is, where the Republicans are, where the Democrats, how many times people have voted in the past. So you some people strategically, instead of reaching out to every single registered voter, they just reach out to the people who have are shown that voted in the last few cycles. So all of this is publicly available data for from the County of San Diego, but it's condensed and accessed better through apps and through programs, so that when you get your campaign organized, when you're raising your money, and you get all your materials, and when you're going door to door, you have your list of exactly whose door you're knocking on, and an idea of kind of where politically they're at and kind of what message you want to target.
So you're saying they have applications to help you, technology to help you with this information.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
when I was saying about that number, I was saying about
Oh, the win
the
number.
the win number. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm
How do
sorry. I
you,
did not address that. I apologize, Brother Rod. So national city. So my win number, as an estimate so at in 2020, because I had to run citywide. So based on all of the breakdown, like even though we're a population of 60,000, only 20,000 are registered to vote, and of those 20,000, like it's almost like 10,000 that vote. So what we did was an analysis on all the prior elections, and projected kind of an estimate. Okay, these are the numbers. If you have this number of candidates, this is the number you need to win. So that projection for me at the time was 6,000, and actually I think no, it was 5,000. 4,000 we had confirmed yeses, but we ended up getting more than 6,000. And so in 2020, it was just I just had a place in the top two. And then in 2024, that number had shrank, obviously, because instead of doing citywide, you're doing with a portion of the city. So that number was 2,000 something, if I remember correctly.
I just wanted to kind of to stress the importance of knowing what that number is you need to win, and how do you come about that number.
Absolutely. And the reason why it's important too, so you're measuring, okay, I can, do 60 doors. I can knock on 60 homes per day. So you have to calculate the number of households you're planning on knocking on, how many voters you're going to contact, not to mention over the phone and via mailer, and even there's ways of tracking all of that online as well.
In these applications you talk about, PDI and things like that, what are the average costs? If I want to run for, say, city council for my district, what would be the cost approximately for an application to use like that?
I would say like 500 to maybe 1,000, a couple thousand. So, and it changes every cycle. So it just depends on like who you can partner with the party and commit to fundraising. So there's different things you can do, because there's some races like there's even planning groups that around the county, and those are technical elections and races. So, the party, if you're proactive in reaching out to any party, it's the same with Republican too. The party might have resources depending on the size of of the the race.
Any other questions? I'm pretty sure some of these potential candidates may have some questions about what it is to really map their district and understand the demographics of the area they're trying to serve. or maybe not.
Everyone's shy, but that's okay.
So I would say of this whole exercise of mapping your district, what is probably the one takeaway that you feel is probably the most important thing that a potential candidate could get from this exercise?
So I think it's so mapping your district. So yes, knowing the ethnic makeup, knowing who you're talking to that's Republican or Democrat, and tailoring your political message and kind of your sales pitch. But to me, it's like it's knowing the issues. It's knowing the culture and who your community is. So for National City, like I said, yeah, we're Latino, we're Mexican and Filipino and all that, but we also have a lot of different subcultures. We have one high school that is one of the oldest high schools in South Bay. So like that's one of those almost rites of passage. Like you're not from National City unless you went to Sweetwater, right? So there's a lot of local pride, and that even impacts the race, the local, the campaign. Like so for National City, it's like more of a small town. So it's harder for candidates to get elected that didn't go to Sweetwater, for example, right? We have a really thriving lowrider car culture, and that is very yeah, it's Chicano, it's just black, but a lot of people don't realize it's also Filipino. There's also white lowriders, and it's also not just about the cars, but it's about the music and the gathering, and that's part of National City's identity. So yeah, we because of we have challenges like I said, like any community, and whatever community you run in is going to have its challenges, and sometimes there's stereotypes. Like we get called nasty city because of those stereotypes. But for me, and what I'd recommend to anyone that's looking to lead your community, take it in stride. Like for me, if people outsiders think that National City, that we're nasty, that's their problem. That's not mine. Like I know my community, I feel safe going at night. Those of us are from National City, and know like who we are, and are like we tend to be tight knit in a small town, but we think outside of the box, and we try to embrace our culture and who we are. And I think every community kind of needs to different, like, but you have to find out what the history is, what the culture, where's the spots everybody goes. Like, so Highland for cruising, Plaza Bonita for shopping, 8th Street has great food spots. So I mean, really, we're just missing a beach in National City. So yeah, that's how I'd recommend folks like think about when you're looking at not just districting and kind of mapping where you're going to run, but like who you're going to run for.
All right. Outstanding presentation, sir. We really appreciate this information. See, this is the solid information that you really need to really mount a successful campaign. So, Deputy Mayor Bush, I really appreciate it. Appreciate your time here. So next I'm gonna go back and share my screen again. Give me a second. All right, and next we're gonna move on to Mr. Chris Duncan. He has been all over the place tonight, so we really appreciate him gracing us with his presence because he's been in 10 different places already.
Probably nine. This will be the 10th. Yeah, thank you, Rod. Appreciate it, and happy to address the group here. Thank you all for participating in this. Chris Duncan, here. I'm in San Clemente. I'm at an event here, so I'm taking a break to do this. I'm former mayor here in San Clemente, first Democrat elected in this town, running for Board of Equalization right now, which is the the only publicly elected tax commission that in the entire country. California has that. It's called the Board of Equalization Region 4 here, covering San Diego County and Orange and Riverside and Imperial and San Bernardino. So I'm really grateful to Rod and the Brotherhood for having me and the mayor there and other folks address you, because if you're looking at this, you're looking at doing something that's completely insane, running for office. I'm telling you right now, you got to have a little bit of a fearlessness, frankly, to even think about doing this. And I give you all credit for tuning in and kind of at least giving this a hard look. We need better people. We need people with the right values, the people with the right integrity running for office these days. That is what we need to reinstill confidence in the public, in our elected officials. And it starts here with getting some basic information right that frankly I didn't have. So I'm really happy that Rod was able to put together this program. And I'm going to talk about some of the building blocks, which really has to do with finances that you need to run a campaign. And I'll tell you right off the bat, I didn't know this. I thought when you decide to run, someone shows up with a bunch of money and tells you, here's your website, here's your staff, here's a bunch of desks and phones, and here's your banner out front, and you get to have this cool office right on Main Street or whatever, right? Like you see in the movies. None of that's true. You don't get anything. You start with zero, nothing. You only start with an idea. The idea is your own belief in yourself that you can be a great public servant and make a change for the better, right? I hope everybody's motivated by that. So, the first thing I want to say is, because we'll be talking a lot about campaign finances, you have no campaign if you have no campaign finance. If you don't raise money, you can't run a campaign unless you're independently wealthy, which I'm going to go ahead and assume that's not people on this call. You don't have anything. You have nothing. That even the tools that we heard Marcus talking about, all of that costs money. Everything costs money. And so I can't drive that point home more. You have to be willing to do the hardest thing you'll ever do on a campaign: ask people for money to run a campaign. That's it, period. Nothing further needs to be said. If I just told you that and that's all you knew, you'd get everything you need to know about what I'm going to tell you, because that is most people don't understand that. Every dollar you spend, you need to raise yourself. That's all comes down to the candidate. And again, you can't run a campaign without money, so you have to raise all that yourself. You're going to put in a little bit yourself, but you can't. You're not going to exhaust your own finances, right? You're already using your time, which is valuable in itself. You need to raise money from other people that will allow you to run a campaign, and they're going to have to believe in that idea that you have. So again, I can't drive that point home any more than I'm doing right now. It's the most uncomfortable thing in my whole life, I think probably yours, to ask people for money for nothing. It's for nothing because it's for you, right? They don't get anything for it. They just get confidence, faith, whatever you want to call it. They're buying into the idea that you will be somebody who can get elected and make their life better, or that they believe in. That's not an easy thing to do, but it is critically important. In fact, it's the most important thing in your whole campaign. We're going to talk about messaging after me, but you can't even get into the messaging. The messaging doesn't matter if you don't have a campaign. If you don't have a campaign, you're not going to get a campaign unless you raise money. So the first thing that we'll talk about, though, is the filing requirements, right? Here's we have the dates vary, right? So look, if you're running for city council, there is no primary, right? It's just a general election. So you don't need to worry about a primary deadline. If you're running for a state office, there is a primary. It's going to be in June of 2026. And then the general is going to be in November 2026, right? The key thing about this first, in the upper left there, we're talking about filing requirements, is you got to decide this way, way, way before the deadline, right? So you got to know when the deadlines are, and then you got to decide what you're going to do way, way, way before. This isn't something you decide a week before. Hey, I guess I'll run for city council or school board or a state assembly or something. You've got to have that in your mind well before the deadline, because you'll have to have your campaign in full swing to know whether you're even viable to pull papers and turn them in and go ahead and file for that race, right? So there are people in every race that wait to the last minute, just throw their name in, and I guess they think that, just like in the movies, you just throw your name in there and randomly people start voting for you. None of that's true. You got to map your district, you got to raise money, you got to go out and campaign if you want people to vote for you. And you have to get that groundwork laid way before the deadlines, right? So suffice it to say, you got to know the deadlines so that you know what your runway is, how much time you're going to need in lead up to get your campaign in full swing, so that you're prepared to pull the papers, fill them out, have them be bounced back to you, right? Like if they're not correct, and get them corrected before the deadline. So this is all stuff that needs to be done well before the deadline. If you're running for a city council race, you're going to be talking to most often your city clerk. They're going to be the one that's giving you the paperwork you need to fill out to get to to be able to run. And you're gonna be dealing with them. If you're running for the higher offices, it will be the registrar of voters or some of the other offices, right? So you're gonna need to figure all of that out ahead of time. That's the point of this, is like, this isn't something you decide at the end. This is something you got to think of right at the beginning, right? Okay, I want to run for this. When's the filing deadline? Okay, now let me back up from that and see how I build my campaign up to that deadline. Okay, so required forms. This is another thing you learn as you go. You can't actually campaign and tell people you're running and solicit endorsements and support in terms of contributions. I think that's what I mean by raising money, right? Is a contribution from a person or an organization, and unless you file this form 501, it's a violation of the California Political Practices Act. So um, you gotta know there are rules here. This isn't about hanging out a shingle and saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm running." You want to do this the right way, because if you do it the wrong way and you start committing violations right when you start, like campaigning before you file Form 501, your competitors are going to know that. They're going to use it against you down the road, right? So you want to follow the rules. Um, Nomination papers, and I'll summarize these 4 points in a second, but I'll run through them first, right? So for almost any office, I think you've got to have people in your community sign a nomination paper saying, "Yep, I support this person. I want them to run," and you need to have that filed with your paperwork, because they don't want people running that they don't have anybody supporting them, right? So you got to get a basic level, and this is not a lot of signatures. When you do this kind of thing, by the way, you have a party, you invite everybody over, and everybody signs at the same time. That's the easiest way to do it. But you're going to have the paperwork, and you're going to have to get people that want to support you to sign off on that. They have to sign their signature. They got to give their address. They got to be registered to vote. And so that's a process that you're going to be going through in order to meet the filing requirements. The Form 700. This is a really in-depth form. You got to be prepared to file when you turn in your paperwork. And that has to do with your assets, right? Where you're getting your income from. That's to make sure that if there's any conflicts of interest, everybody knows ahead of time those conflicts that you might have, right? You're going to be getting elected to city council. You own a bunch of property in the city. People should know about that before they elect you, right? They should know that you might be interested in furthering the value of your own property, say on a vote. So that's what the Form 700 is. And of course, the filing fee that you need to pay when you turn in your paperwork. The reason I want to summarize these 4 points is, don't go this alone. There's one piece of advice too I could give you. The people who know how all the paperwork works is a treasurer and a campaign staffer of some sort, right? Somebody who's been through the process. I don't care if you find somebody to volunteer as your campaign staffer, but you're going to have to find a treasurer and pay them. Again, another reason to raise money. Don't try to fill out these forms on your own. Find a treasurer who knows how these forms are filed, and have them help you fill out the paperwork. That's what they do. In addition to being a treasurer and keeping your money in order, they also help you with the paperwork, right? So do not try to navigate this by yourself. Find somebody who knows how these papers are filled out, and have them help you work through them. Again, there are treasurers out there that work on smaller races for less money, right? Than say a big accounting firm that works on
Hey,
state
Chris,
races.
we have a hand raised by Mr. Andre
Sure.
Mitchell.
Great.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? I'm having
Yes.
some issues.
Yes.
First of all, thanks to both of you all who spoke tonight. I have a question. I'm trying to understand as a someone who has no idea about politics.
Yeah.
You see the emails come in saying, "We have this deadline for fundraising. Please give money." First, what does that actually mean? Like, what is that deadline? It feels like it's very arbitrary. And second,
Yeah.
when someone gives money, is there, like you mentioned how you're starting your campaign, you have nothing. Where does this money go? Are you creating, the equivalent of a government LLC to put the money in? Like, what's going on the back end logistically so that you can actually receive money?
Yes. Great questions. You're right on it. That's in the middle section, but I'll just touch on it now since the question came in. So, first, I'll touch on how you can accept money, right? So the first thing you have to do is file that Form 501 that we just talked about, Declaration of Candidates. Now you can tell people you're running. You can accept contributions. You can, or I should say, you can solicit contributions. Yes, you can accept contributions, but that's sort of that just opens the door to everything else. The next big thing you got to do is file the Form 410. Yeah, there it is. The Form 410. It's a strange term, but it's a term of art. It's called a committee. The Form 410 opens a committee, right? When you see like Friends of Chris Duncan, have you seen that, right? Or Chris Duncan for City Council. That is a committee. It's not actually a group of people is what we think a committee is. It's just called the committee, but you can open it yourself. And your treasurer, by the way, needs to be the one to help you open that. Don't try and do it yourself. That is what is required for you to actually accept money. Can't accept money till you have a committee beyond $2,000, I should say, right? So up until $2,000, you can. I hope you're going to raise more than $2,000. So everybody who's going to be running here should have a committee. If you're not going to raise more than $2,000, don't run for the race. I'm going to tell you that right now. Okay. Like, so the rule is you can't accept money without a committee up until 2,000, but let's assume everyone's going to raise more than 2,000. It costs more than 2,000 to run any race, even school board race, water board race, whatever. So you're going to have your treasurer help you and file this Form 10. That is the organization that it needs to be in place for you to accept money. They will set up so to your point before, you're not an LLC, you are a committee, a political committee, right? When you hear about these PACs, that's a political committee, right? Your committee is just going to be for your race. So that's the answer to your first question. The apparatus that you set up is a committee, and the form 410 is what you use to do that. As part of that, your treasurer will set up a bank account for the committee, right? So this is not your personal bank account. It's not a business bank account. It's a political bank account. And that's where the money will come in and the money will go out of. And the treasurer will be the one that manages that. Again, you could do this yourself. I believe if you do this yourself, you will violate the law and you will be, you could be cited at some point, right? So don't take that risk. Raise enough money so you can hire a treasurer, and it only costs you, a few $100s a month probably to have a treasurer help you with a local race, so city council, school board, that kind of thing. Okay, so get to your other point. Okay, so then you're out there soliciting, and there's all kinds of ways to solicit, which we won't have time to go through. And by the way, individuals are the people you're going to primarily get money for in these sort of smaller races. You're going to go to your friends and family. There's probably a whole fundraising section on this, but you really want to get organizations supporting you too, right? Unions, businesses, organizations that can give more money than your average individual, right? So keep that in mind. It's not just people, it's also organizations you may have some contact with or they support what you're doing. They can give you more money generally. So make sure you don't leave them out. The email solicitations we get from candidates, it's really their committees that are doing it. They're fundraisers working on, on their behalf, but through the committee. There are deadlines. There are reporting deadlines that are part of this process, where your treasurer, and again, you could prepare this, but make sure your treasurer does it, not you, prepares a report periodically that reports all the contributions you've gotten and all the expenditures you've had. That's a public document, right? So people can see who's given to you, how much money they're giving, what you're spending your money on, right? Are you spending it on legitimate stuff or other things? That's all public information, so the public has full awareness of what you're doing as part of your campaign. So there are actually deadlines. So when they say there's a deadline, there really usually is a deadline because they want to get as much money as they can get in before the deadline, because then the report comes out and it shows a lot of money, more than all the competitors. If you raise more than your competitors, money begets money, support begets support, right? So they're more likely other people are more likely to support you if they see you raising money from other people. So it is valuable to raise more money so that when the report comes out after the deadline, you are at the top. Okay. So that is the impetus behind help us raise as much money as we can before the deadline. But I will be honest with you, as a candidate who's run many campaigns, the reality is you use it as a tool to motivate people, right? because if they don't think there's a deadline or there's no urgency, I'll get to that next time. Yeah, I think Chris is great, but I'm busy right now. If they see that there's a deadline, that will motivate people more than not to perhaps give you that contribution before the deadline to help you out. So that's the story behind all of that. Did that address, Andre, all the things you were thinking?
It did, and I have a quick follow-up. So I noticed when I've given in the past, I suddenly am on some list where I'm now
Mhm.
getting people from other states or other locales money. So I
Yeah,
assume there's some type of data sharing that is per cost, that is
yeah,
a fundraiser in its own. But I'm just curious if you're
yeah.
able to go into that, or if that is going to
Yeah,
disrupt.
no, another really good question. And here's the truth behind that, because I get that a lot. People say, I want to contribute to you, but I don't want you sharing my information. I want you to promise me you're not going to share my information, right? If I start getting all these emails, I'm going to blame you and I'm not going to give you any more money. The truth is there isn't a sharing. In most cases, I don't, my committee doesn't sort of send, oh, we got this guy gave us $1,000. Hey, everybody, this guy, Andre's got money. He's willing to give it to people like us, right? So go ask him. They're really pulling it from the reports, which are mandatory and required and public. That's really where it's coming from, right? They're the fundraisers for these big sort of national campaigns, let's say, right? Like I'm running to flip this district and wherever. How did they find you? Well, because you fit, they can digitally use algorithms to analyze all these public reports, and they will use data sets to filter out people, right? And if you're giving to an upstart, Democratic candidate in a red district in California, they're thinking they're going to do the same in Missouri or Florida or wherever. That's how that comes up. It usually is not the candidates or the campaign affirmatively passing on your information. They're pulling that from public reports that have to be filed, and they are filtering and targeting themselves using that public information for the most part. So it's unavoidable in a sense, right? In other words, you can't promise somebody that if they give to you, they're not going to get hit all of a sudden by a bunch of other people. That's just the nature of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so moving on through, and please, if there's other questions, please raise your hand. So contribution limits do vary, right? There is a state max that applies if your city, say, doesn't have a max contribution. Used to be that you could have the state max might be 5,900, but if your city could have no max, right? And that means 10,000 contributions or 15,000 per cycle, right? This is all per cycle. So say if the cycle is for a city council race, it's whatever 2026. For a state race, one cycle is the primary and another cycle is the general, right? So in that race, you could get 5,900 for the primary and then another 5,900 from the same individual or entity in the general election. But yeah, so they passed a law a couple years ago, the state legislature in California, that said if you don't have a limit, which it looks like San Diego never did, city of San Diego never had one, then it's going to be capped at our max. But it used to be if there was no limit, there really was no limit. You could have somebody in a city like mine, my San Clemente didn't have a limit. You could have somebody say, I really like this person. I've got billions of dollars. I'm going to donate $100,000 to this candidate and basically win the election for him, right? Didn't happen often, but it could have. So that's why they passed the law capping it at whatever the state max is. Other cities have a lower max, as you see on their Chula Vista, right? So you're capped at 5,900. If your city doesn't have a limit, it's the cap, but your city is free to set a lower limit. And that's done, again, to level the playing field, right? So that wealthy individuals or well-connected individuals don't have an advantage. Because as I said, this is all about raising money. If you raise more money, you win generally. If you don't raise any money, you could be Barack Obama, you're going to lose, right? You could be the best politician of all time and the smartest person and the most qualified. You don't raise any money, you lose. Okay. That's just how it is. It's not like it is in the movies where it's just, oh, this person is just an incredibly talented person with a great heart and a great speaker. Nobody knows about that unless you have the money to tell them what you are all about, right? So again, driving home that point. Couple things on prohibited sources that ties into a little bit of what Andre was saying. So foreign national, so can't be anybody that's not a U.S. citizen. to contribute, right? You can't have people from foreign countries contributing. Okay, cash over 100. So you can accept cash up to 100. No, under $100, I think is really what it is. So somebody wants to give you $20 at a fundraiser or some kind of event, you can take the $20 and you give it to your treasurer, and that goes into your campaign account. Up to $100. But if they want to give you the $100, I guess it is over $100. So maybe it's over $100. Then they can't give it to you in cash. You physically can't accept. Actually, I think it is 100. Somebody gives you a $100 bill, you can't accept it. And you can't give them a dollar back either, right? Which is sort of what I try to do a couple times. They actually have to give you cash under $100. If the reason is they don't think that you're going to be swayed or that the public needs to know that somebody gave you, under $100. But over 100, the implication is you might be swayed by that contribution, and the public deserves to know that somebody gave you that money, because that may mean when they look at the people who contributed this is why Chris voted that way, right? Because he got that, $150 from this developer over here. That's all public information again in these reports that your treasurer files. You don't have to report people under 100 because again, the idea is it was not enough money to really influence your positions. So same thing with anonymous, right? Like, so you don't need to report their name. If you get cash, say $20, that just goes into a huge kind of bundle of money and no name is associated. If it's over 100, if it's a check for $150, if they make a credit card payment for $200, say their name is in that report, right? Every person who gave you that money is in that report, and people can look and say, oh my God, I hate that person. I can't believe, if this person got money from that person, I don't like them, right? So this is the idea. You get to see in an open society who's actually contributing to a campaign. But again, if it's under 100, then that interest isn't there. Okay, so we talked about the 410, which is along with the Form 501, the most important two documents, because that allows you to open the committee and start accepting contributions so that you can run a real campaign. The campaign disclosure is about financial conflicts that you may have, the late contributions. So there are certain periods too when you get within 90 days of the election where you have to report contributions. I think it's over $1,000. That's the idea where right before an election, a bunch of money might pour in and the public won't know about it until after the election, right? So this late reporting is designed to prevent that by saying within 24 hours of any contribution over $1,000, within 90 days of the election, you have to immediately file a report. Again, you don't want to do this. You want your treasurer to do that. I hope everybody can follow that though, right? That the idea is you have to, we want the public to know right up until the election who is contributing to who, because that may affect how that person's positions are, and that may be different than how you believe. And then again, the records requirement, again, don't do that yourself. Have the treasurer make enough money to pay a treasurer to take care of that for you. And then we have some resources over there, which you should certainly check out. Again, don't try and do this on your own. Have people who are in the know help you with your campaign, right? Your treasurer and some other professional who's run some kind of campaign or been part of some campaign, whether they're going to volunteer for you or work for just a little bit of money as your campaign manager / consultant / confidant, along with you. You need that person to bounce ideas off of, to help sit down and do call time with you. Call time is the time you devote to raising contributions. And again, you can't do any of that till you have all these forms filed. But make sure that you are you have a team around you, even if it's a streamlined team that can help you through these difficult times. And I'll just close out with this. I know you have there might be a fundraising section, but I've emphasized the fundraising because it's 90 something% of the campaign. It's way more important than who the candidate is. If you can raise money, you got a way better chance, right? It's hard. It's really, really hard to ask people for money. It's even harder when they say no. This campaign is an incredible personal growth opportunity. I urge everyone who's interested in doing it to do it. You might lose, you might not run again. I hope you do run again, but do this for yourself, right? This is a test of your humanity. This is a chance to put yourself in a very uncomfortable position and then grow doing it. And part of that growth is having people talk bad about you, having people decide not to give you money, say no, right? People that you thought for sure would give you something. Nope. And they'll do it for all those different reasons, right? The most important thing you do in your whole campaign is the next thing after someone tells you no, right? Or the next thing after someone disparages you. Do you give up? Do you shed a tear? Right? Maybe you shed one tear and then I hope you move on. You call again, right? You get up. You shrug off the criticism. You shrug off the denial. You grow. You look at yourself and you say, all right, I'm gonna take that hit and I'm gonna be better for it, right? That's gonna toughen me up and that's gonna make me a better candidate, a better person in the future, better parent, better spouse because of this experience, right? Of having people not just tell you yes all the time, because you get a lot of no's in a campaign. So that's how I'd wrap up this is that it's an incredible chance to test yourself and grow and put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, all for the public good, right? And you're going to hear about that in the next presentation too, because if you're not doing it for the right reasons, if you don't have a story, if you don't have a message about why you're running, then people are going to see through that and they're going to see you as not authentic, right? So that's another thing that you got to think about. And when you do these campaign calls for money, you draw on that. You lead with that, right? I mean, I got into politics because I was in the government when the government started locking up immigrant children and treating them like animals in a cage. And I said, I'm not going to be part of that. I'm going to leave this government job and I'm going to go out there and run for office to stop policies like that and to stand up for vulnerable people, right? You got to have something like that. You got to have something like that because if you don't, people are going to look at you and go, well, you must have some other interest, right? Um, so, uh, and when you get into these calls and asking for money and attracting people to be part of your campaign team, you draw on your story. You draw on your story, right? That's what gets people connected and motivated, and that all comes back to setting these building blocks for your campaign. So with that, I will ask, I guess I've rushed through this, a lot because I want to make sure that you get to the other material. This next section is just so critically important on messaging. But if anybody has any questions, and believe me, no question is a bad question on this technical stuff, I'd be happy to answer it.
Outstanding. Now, this is what we're talking about. This is the real, the raw, unfiltered, unadulterated version of what you need to do. You may not get it like this from a lot of places where you get the raw, unfiltered understanding of what needs to be done. Brother Welborne, you have a question.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say thank you for all of the information. I was at the last seminar over the summer, and it was just as informational. As far as when you're
Yeah.
talking about the treasurer, what are some things you look for in a treasurer? How do you know a good treasurer, or even just what services to look for?
That's a great question. I'm really glad you asked that. Look, there's not a lot of people that are treasurers in this political area, right? It's not exactly the most lucrative thing. So you're not talking about a huge universe of qualified people. What you need to do is look into your network, right? Talk to elected officials or have somebody put you in touch with local elected officials that are running or are elected to an office similar to the level you're looking at. Get some recommendations, right? And then have a couple interviews. Ask them those questions. Why do you think this person's a good treasurer? Why would you recommend them? And then have a couple interviews with more than one, right? So you can at least compare them and see who kind of clicks with you. It's like anything. There's a basic level of competence. You got to think, well, if somebody's a treasurer, they can do the basics, but you want someone who knows you a little more than that, right? And is going to kind of be there for you and is attuned to what you're all about. That really comes from the interview, right? And also from these recommendations from others, right? So that's what you do. I don't think there's a resource out there that I know of, right? That's sort of that you can look it up in a system or something. It's always been word of mouth for me in terms of kind of getting a few options and then kind of going with the one that I'm most comfortable with after having that in-depth conversation with him and asking him some tough questions. So that would be the advice on that is, is lean on that network and seek out recommendations.
Perfect. Thank you.
Outstanding. Any other questions from anybody? Well, again, Mr. Duncan, you never fail to answer the call when we call upon you. So again, I really appreciate it. We appreciate this information that you give us. It always enlightens everyone who listens.
Well, fantastic. Glad to be part of this. I'd like to help anytime, and you can all get in touch with Rod. He knows that I'm available for questions offline from other folks periodically too. If it comes up and strikes you after the fact, I'm totally available to help out, right? To give back here and use some of the lessons, the hard lessons I've learned to impart upon others and kind of give back. And I will give you the no BS answer then too. I promise.
He may give you the really no BS answer at that point.
That's right. Thank you
All
for
right.
the time, and thank you for deciding to do this, right? Thank you for at least looking into this, no matter what. This is an incredibly high calling and so important these days to have folks of good heart out there running for office.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, take care.
All right, we're going to move on to our next session here. Now we're going to go to the esteemed Miss Karen Brennan, who is by far one of the most successful marketing executives in our county.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, I gotta put it on there, right?
Okay.
None other
Well,
than Miss Karen Brennan. So it's all you.
now for something completely different. I love following Chris because he's just he's just such a real guy. He's great at what he does. So I'll just start by saying hi, I'm Karen Brennan. I'm a longtime North County resident. I live in Carlsbad. I'm currently the marketing director of the Veteran Documentary Corps, which is a group of filmmakers that tell veteran stories through mostly short format documentaries. I'm also in the early process of producing one of our next films. My primary career, though, was with IBM, and I had a long tenure as a senior marketing manager. My last assignment there was to run all of the marketing across North America for IBM's second largest software brand at the time. Finally, I'm an Army veteran and I'm an active advocate for veteran issues. I'm here today to be part of this wonderful event that's designed to help jumpstart new and upcoming political leaders of our community, and that's you guys. My objective is simple, is to provide you with an introduction to some resources that I think can help you to better define yourself as a candidate and also to enable you to create some effective messages when you're ready to start your campaign. So this is sort of like marketing 101. I think most people would go, well, what does marketing have to do with running for office? I think most people know, you've heard the terms marketing and sales, and a lot of people think they're the same thing, but they're not. Marketing creates demand. Sales fulfills it. That's the difference between the two. And a famous film star who was a sex symbol back in the day, she's 91 today, I think, once said, sex appeal is 50% what you have and 50% what they think you have. And it's the part that's what they think you have where marketing really does its magic. So I think most people's first experience with marketing themselves is when you write your resume. And as a candidate, you're the asset. You are the product that's going to be marketed. So when you look at your current resume, how do you think it describes you? How well does it describe you? And do you feel like when you look at it, yep, that's me. That's what I want to come across as being. Is it authentically who you are? Because basically what you're doing is you're sort of laying out your brand, your personal brand. What are you? What do you represent? And so forth. So who you are, your goal here and the objective is to define yourself before your competition does. When you're running for office, a lot of what you're going to be doing is playing defense. Best defense is a good offense. So you want to be out ahead of this by defining yourself before your competition does that for you. So everybody knows, I did a very quick, less than 5-minute ChatGPT search about everybody who registered for this. And all I did was simply say, who is your name, followed by San Diego. and to see, what the world thinks you are right now, out online. And I think, Rod, you're going to give people what we came up with. I think that's your intention. And then I also ask a second question. Actually, it wasn't even a question. I just said social media with a question mark. And that's just to see what's your footprint out there on social media. So this basically gives you a head start. You look at your public persona and maybe think about, does it help support you, or will it support you in your candidacy? And there are people that like to keep a low profile, and there are good reasons for doing that. But if you're running for office, that may not be a good idea, because what that basically does is leave a nice big void for your opponent to fill in the gaps. If you're not telling people who you are and what you're into, what you believe, all of that, other people will. So think about what's out there. Google yourself, look at everything that's available to you, or, and if you don't have anything out there, consider how willing you are to put yourself out there, because people are going to look you up. If you're out there running for office, people are going to want to know who you are. And I will say, they're not going to be out there doing deep dives on you. They're going to do that 5-minute, internet search. Who is somebody? Just to see, get an idea of who you are. So anyway, make sure you don't let them fill the void for you. So what you're going to do when you're deciding, how to best represent who you are is, what are your main campaign relevant strengths? And then you want to use messaging to kind of highlight those strengths. For instance, honesty, character, ability to express your thoughts in a compelling manner, you're hardworking, you've got experience in the field, all that sort of stuff. To get to that point, though, you kind of need feedback other than your own. And so it's a little bit of homework. Who knows you best? Everybody's got good friends or family members. They love you. They think you walk on water and stuff. Those aren't the people to ask. You want to ask people that know you, but that will tell you the truth. So in this little homework exercise, ask people whose opinions you value, that know enough about you to give you good feedback, and just say, what do they think your strong points are, and what are your weak points? And use that as input for developing, your own vision of who you are. And don't be your own arbiter on this, because we're our worst critics, and sometimes we have blind spots that, we don't even know we have. So anyway, that's the first part, is figuring out, who you are. And then, what do you stand for? It's like Chris was sort of intimating. You have a reason why you're running for office. What is it? So once you choose the office, or that you want to put in your candidacy for, the very first thing you need to do is read the job description. It's amazing how many people don't seem to do that. And I think we have very good examples right now that we can all think of right off the top of our head that don't seem to understand what their job is. So really, really understand the job description, because you're applying for a job. So you need to know what you're going to be measured, what the results that you're going to be measured on will be. Learn about, do some homework, learn about constituent issues and how, and sometimes even if they apply to the actual job description. And this means you're going to have to pick your fights, because you're going to want to only pick the fights that you actually have some power to solve. There'll be people that are going to think you can fix everything, every problem, when in fact, from just an understanding of the job, you can't fix every problem. So those aren't going to be the things that you're going to hang your hat on. You're going to have to pick the fights you have a chance of winning. Once you understand your constituents' interests and issues, you're going to have to prioritize those. And you prioritize those based on what they think's important, not what your particular interest is, or frankly, even where you're the most qualified. That's hard to do, because we all tend to want to lean into our strengths. But the real key is you have to keep coming back to, what are your voters, your constituents, what are their issues, what are their priorities? And at that point, that's when you start looking at yourself and saying, okay, how do I measure up to those? And then you develop your high-level policy positions, your issue perspectives, and you solidify your purpose for running. So this is where messaging comes in. Why does it matter? We call that developing your value proposition. in marketing speak. That just basically means, why you? Why you? What do you bring to the situation that's going to bring more results to your constituents that'll improve their lives? And why are you better than your competitors? Again, this is where good messaging comes in. Creating it is a process. It's hard. It's only hard if you don't understand the fundamental way that you go about it. It's simple if you do. You define your target audience first. And that's understanding your key demographics. What do they care about? So understand your audience, your voters, what do they care about, their interests. The better you can define them, and you will likely define multiple audiences. Some of them may be an older demographic, could be younger, could be based on racial lines, could be economic. You're going to have people with varying issues that they care the most about. And so you're going to want to be able to talk to all these different people in the language that they care about, not just what you're able to talk to them about. And then at that point, that's when you align, okay, I understand who my voters are. I understand pretty much like the top three and issues that they care about. And then you start looking at yourself, what do I have to bring to the table for this? So you align your capabilities with their needs and issues. The big part of messaging and the part that's the most valuable to you is once you've done that, so this is great. You know yourself, you know your strengths, your weaknesses, you understand your audience, you've figured out, hey, I have some relevant experience I can put to this, but you do the same thing for your competitor. This is what a lot of competitors don't do. Okay, they message for themselves, but they don't message for their competitors. So what you do is you look at your competitor and you go, okay, you already know what the voting public is going to care about. You know what the job description is. You know what you can do. What can they do? So you look at their experience. You look at what they're saying on social media. You look at their history. And then you figure out, okay, wow, they really do have relevant experience in this area. Maybe I'm a little weak on that. That's not the hill you're going to die on. That's not where you're going to fight them on. What you do is you look at how they stack up in different areas, and that's how you figure out where you're going to go after them, where you're really going to be effective. And that's the real strength of good messaging, is when you're not doing it just for yourself, but you understand and you're doing it for your competitors as well. And you're ready, because if they start talking about something and they don't really have any relevant experience, you're ready. So that's what goes into this piece of work. You will figure out what the issues are that you can compete effectively with them and win. And depending on their positions, experience, and all of that. And the very bottom line is you have to have what are called proof points. And that just basically is, why should they believe you? You can say, oh, yeah, I know how to do this, and I'm better than my competitor. Okay, if somebody says, prove it. What do you have to show? So if you're going to make a claim and you're going to say you're better than your competitor, or you're at least on par with your competitor, how do you prove that you are? So again, that goes back to how well do you know yourself? How well do you know your background? Where are your strengths, your weaknesses? And you got to have the ability to back it up. So that's what goes into message development and effective messaging. And I'm just going to say this, I said this before. This is something I've done a lot. I actually did one not terribly long ago with somebody who was running for office, and it wasn't as effective. And the reason why is they didn't know they were in trouble until they were pretty well into their campaign. And for some reason, what they were saying wasn't resonating. And so I did a little work for him and completely flipped everything around. But it would have been a heck of a lot more effective if they'd have gone out of the gate with that. They wouldn't have come to that conclusion halfway through. They did fine, but it was frustrating until they figured that out. So do this early. If you can, do this before you announce you're running. Because if you have the ability to define yourself and know basically what you're going to hang your hat on, and what your messaging is, even if your competitors haven't filed yet or whatever, Once they do file, then you already know how you're going to do this. You already know what it takes to do this, and you'll be ahead of the game. Once you do file and you start doing all the heavy lifting that Chris talked about, and you're going to be too busy to really focus on this piece of work. So I would suggest, if you're serious, you think you're going to run, do this at the time when you're really getting ready to run. And I will say, anybody who's serious, really intends to do this, I will sign up and I will work with you. And I will be happy to give my time to help you in this effort, because I know how to do this and we can be effective. And I would be very happy to help launch a career in politics. So keep that in mind. I will be your resource and I will help you do this. So anyway, so when I first started, I introduced myself and I told you who I was. I told you what I was here to do and what I wanted, to accomplish. It took exactly 60 seconds for me to do that. That's what a minute stump speech is like. It goes by fast. You do not have a whole heck of a lot of time to expound on much, but you can get across whatever you need to get across. And so we have an exercise for you today, and that is simply to pretend that you've got 1 minute to make an impression on somebody in a crowded environment. Person is somebody who you know about, whose advocacy you'd like to have, and they don't know anything about you. And this is pretty realistic, because a lot of times you're going to go into a public forum, or you'll see somebody at an event that oh wow, didn't know they were going to be here. You're not going to have a whole heck of a lot of time, but you want to get across what you want to get across. So I'm going to ask everybody to answer these 3 questions in 1 minute, and you'll be timed. You're not going to be timed coming up with it, but you're going to take like the few minutes, however long it takes for you to say who you are. Make up whatever it is you want to say about, why you're there and what do you want. And in a lot of cases, you're going to be asking for a meeting or a chance, get their card, or, even a contribution, whatever it is you want to ask them for. But you got to do it in a minute. So this is the exercise we're going to ask you to do right here. And then anybody who's up for it, will give you a chance to say your 60-second stump speech, and we'll time you and we'll see how well it went. But I will tell you this, make it something that the basics are that you're just automatic. You know exactly what you're going to say about yourself. You know exactly, okay, I'm walking into a dinner. I'm walking in. Have something in mind what you're going to say depending on the event, and always have something in your mind what you want to ask for, what you want to accomplish. You can do that in 60 seconds. So with that, I'm just going to say, go. Start now. Take 2-3 minutes to come up with a 60-second speech, and then we'll come back. So Rod, while everybody's sitting here, do you have a 60-second stump speech? I'm going to throw you under the bus.
Sure. I can make my attempt.
Take a minute and then come up with your own. What would you say?
I would say, my name is Roderick Matthews. I am a 20-year resident of the city of Vista, and I would like to be your city councilman for District 2. My goal here is to reduce the cost of energy in our district.
Okay, so I'm a potential contributor. What do you want?
I would like for you, number one, to support me in my campaign. And number two, if you have it within your budget, to support me, to support our campaign financially, because we're doing great work out here, but it takes contributions from people like you to build our team to make us stronger,
Okay,
stronger
I'm in.
together.
I'm in. Good.
How about that? Now let's contribute to the campaign.
There you go. Is anybody out there working on their pitch? We'll give you one more minute and then we'll come back. Oh, Joe's got one. Joe's ready.
It's my LB.
Mhm.
Well, I definitely want to hear what Johnnie Welborne has to say as well. He loves these kind of moments.
Johnny, are you working on one?
I'm working on one, but I hate these moments. So I think he's trolling me.
The best thing about this though is there's no wrong answer. There isn't. And the more you know yourself and the more comfortable you are with your own, with yourself, the easier it gets. And I'll freely admit that age and treachery has, advantage here. Because the longer you hang around, the more you have a tendency to know yourself and your pluses, your minuses, and kind of what you're likely to say in these kinds of situations. Um, so I'll claim old age. It's my calling card on this.
Yeah. So I'm not intending to run. This is all information gathering for me, but I'll give folks like Johnny and Joe some time to come up with their pitch. I see Sora Johnson as well. But I would say, my name is Andre Mitchell. I am a lifelong learner, father, son, husband, brother, and I would like to restore competence
Hmm.
into servant leadership and politics. And what I'm asking for is just a chance to lean in with me to help develop and chart a new course for what we are doing here in San Diego.
That's good. So, Joe, are you ready? Who's ready?
I'm not ready. I'm
Joe, come on, Joe. I know you got this, Joe.
all right. I'm switching it up a little bit, but I can. Yeah, give me one more minute.
Who else do we have?
Oh, I see
Oh,
Dr.
Jamea.
Welborne. Dr. Welborne is on here. Definitely, she's ready.
Okay, so I think I'm ready.
Okay, go for it.
Hey, so good evening. My name is Johnnie Welborne. I'm on the Board of Governors of Harriet Tubman uh, Village Charter School. I'm a husband and a father of two, and see, I can't get the transition words. The transition words is where I mess up at. So, and I'm let me start over. I'll start over. This is all practice, right? This is just yeah. This is our lab. Okay. Hey, so good evening. I'm Johnnie Welborne. I'm sit on the board of governors of Harriet Tubman Charter School. I'm a husband and a father and a long time resident of Chula Vista. I'm running for school board district trustee 4 because I want to return um, standards and policy back to our school district, and plan on doing that by ensuring that we have financial transparency and that we provide more oversight into our bond, how we're allocating our bond money. Kind of fell off there at the end, but I need to polish that up a little bit.
But that's good. This is something you just came up with no heads up, no time. Imagine how much better you're going to be when you actually have time to think about it and practice it, time it, and all that, right?
Mhm.
It's well done. Good job.
Thank you.
Who's up?
All right, LB.
All right. Still in progress, but here I go. I am Joe Smith. In Lemon Grove, some call me Linebacker Dad because I am faithfully committed to Lemon Grove as your family and community engagement director. I have served you in this role for the last 5 years, and brought you the rec center programs, music enrichment, and wraparound services to your schools that you have asked for. I'm running for Lemon Grove City Council because I believe in a city that works for every resident. I bring a track record of leadership, teamwork, accountability, and values I've lived daily as a leader, parent, coach, and community servant. I stand on these family values and the opportunity to live, work, and play in a clean, beautiful city that I've heard many mention, and I didn't get to my closing sentence. But it's probably going to be something about just um, together, trust, and leaning on community voice.
Ask for something. It's like, what do
Okay.
you want? Look what I've done. Now I want X. This is what I'm here to do.
Okay.
That's good though. It's like, again, no heads up. Everybody doing this on the fly without much chance to think about it. But the reality is you're going to wind up in a place where you're going to run into somebody that you're going to think, oh man, that's just the person I wanted to see. And you're going to have 1-2 minutes max of their time in the same space without somebody else interrupting you or having run off or the phone will ring or something like that. So even if you don't run for office, this is one of those things that when you go to a party, you're meeting people you don't know, you're kind of uncomfortable because it's not really your group. It's not a bad thing to have in your back pocket so that you can kind of introduce yourself, you kind of relax into it because you know what you're going to say, you know who you are, and you're going to make an impression without really even thinking about it. So that's called marketing yourself. It's basically you're just putting yourself out there, but you're putting yourself out there on your own terms, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Who is left? Who's
It's Mr. Johnson.
Yes. Perfection is not the goal.
Is that me?
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, Dr. Welborne is still on here too, so definitely got to hear from her.
She is. I yield to her.
I don't think she's on here. I don't see her on here anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, Sora Johnson is definitely a dedicated servant and service advocate. So definitely looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Okay, well, I guess I'll give it a try. I'll give it a whirl since this is a safe space. Okay.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Jamila Johnson, a third generation San Diegan and proud product of the California State University system. I have a passion for social justice, civic engagement, and economic development, and I'm hoping to bring the passion as being a servant leader back into our community by uniting generations and inspiring the next generation of servant leaders. And I hope I can gain your support either by volunteering or a financial contribution to my campaign.
That's great. That's how you do it.
Here.
Outstanding. Great work.
So, Rod, and anybody have any questions or anything having to do with, just the idea of messaging and how important that is as part of your campaign, both to identify and, get out in front of your competition, understand who you are, and then who your competition is and how you stack up. Andre.
Yeah, first, thank you again for the session. I didn't anticipate that it was going to be interactive, but this has been very, very encouraging to see that this is happening at this level. I'm curious about when I see like a panel or, let's say you have 5 or 6 candidates on stage, so you're going to each have a chance to do your introductory statement. But how, just from your experience, how would you then find a way to leave the audience with something to remember when you're amongst a sea of candidates that people are just going to walk away from not knowing who they are?
That's a really good question, and I think everybody struggles with that all the time when they're in the think about debates and that sort of stuff. I think this is where knowing your strengths and weaknesses, knowing who you are, it doesn't hurt to have just a very short anecdote in your pocket also. Something that people can relate to, not a joke necessarily, but just, a reference to a recent event or something that, where you've learned something or that's relevant to whatever the subject is of the panel. Um, that people remember stories. They don't necessarily remember facts. They remember stories. And I can tell you that I've learned since I've been working with this filmmaking group, which is totally out of I had no background whatsoever. I came in to help them to, create a brand, stronger brand, market what they do. They make films. They don't do anything else beyond that very much. But what I learned is that stories are the power. You can tell a lot of information to somebody, but until somebody relates it through a personal experience or a story, that's when you remember stuff. So think about anecdotes, stories. Think about how you can incorporate that into when you speak to people or when you're going to make a speech somewhere. Um, Personalize it with something like that. Stories are what people remember. That's the one thing I would say.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Outstanding. Anyone has any questions? You don't get this type of interaction. You don't get this type of high level training every day. So I would advise you, if you have any questions whatsoever, ask them now while you have the opportunity.
I'm really that you said at the beginning. So I was kind of thinking about just the platforms I should be using, social media, website, what elements need to be on that website to attract viewership and all those different things.
I would just say if you are on a social media platform, make sure it's doing something for you. There are a lot of people that have like a LinkedIn profile just because they think, well, I just got to have a LinkedIn profile. If you have a profile or something like that, make sure it's up to date, make sure it does something for you. Because if it's just flat and it doesn't have any life, it doesn't help you. If anything, it's a that if you're making comments and you're reacting to things that you're keeping in mind, does this reflect on who I am? Am I being consistent in what I believe? It's not a matter of policing yourself in terms of always saying the proper thing. It's just being consistent with who you're trying to tell people you are. So that's the one thing. If you're going to use social media, make sure that you monitor it and you make sure that it reflects you, whoever you are, whatever you are.
Indeed. I think my line brother sent me something in that short time. I was leaning a different direction, but everything about me kind of leans towards this linebacker dad, this education consulting. And so it kind of made me think of, just like almost like an educator who cares, so that it ties back to what the world kind of sees. Is that a effective strategy, do you think?
You already have a brand,
Yep.
and it's interesting, and it makes you want to know what's the story behind that. And so what I would just say is have that story available. Why are you the linebacker dad? What's behind that? I want to know. I'm curious. And it's like that's how you create your brand. If that's what you feel strongly about, lean into it, lean into it because it makes you different. It makes you, unusual. And people want to know about people like that.
Indeed.
Brother Welborne, you have a hand?
Yeah, Miss Brennan, thank you again for everything. I love the interactive portion of your presentation. I think this is amazing. I do have a question about when we're talking about marketing and we're talking about building that campaign, how much emphasis would would you say needs to go into marketing? Would you say maybe like, 20% of your time and energy, maybe 50%, 60%? How important is the marketing?
Depends on where you're starting from. If nobody knows your name and nobody has a clue who you are, it's very important because you're going to have to build that brand and you're going to have to create an identity out there that people can read about and understand and get to know you. If you're already a well-known person, that's why people always say name recognition, right? That's why name recognition is so important because you don't have to go develop the awareness of this person. You just sort of have to tailor it to how you want them to think of you. So again, it also depends on the office you're running for. If you're running for a really a very specific local office that has a fairly defined constituency. I mean, not everybody's paying attention to this race kind of a thing. Then you probably don't have to put the same level of attention that you do if you're running for something like Chris is running for. Then it's important. He cares about this. And also um, it also depends on how do I put this? Um, it has to do with where does your emotional energy better spent. If this is like this horrendous chore and oh God, I've got to do, then don't spend your energy on that. Spend your energy on what you're good at, and you'll figure it out. It's going to be different for everybody. But think about it up front. Think about it. And the most important thing is just don't wait till they're out there defining who you are because it's a heck of a lot harder to come back around and get control over an image that somebody has created for you than to be out there, basically adding on to the one you've already created.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions?
One of my favorite anecdotes for marketing, why marketing matters, is everybody can relate to this. Okay. Anybody who's ever traveled outside the US notices that not everybody outside the US has teeth as white as a tissue, you know? And who knew we needed whiter teeth until marketing people told us we did? That is a completely made up, developed market. There is absolutely no reason to care about how white your teeth are until we were told that we needed to care about it. And that was all marketing. So, that's a perfect analogy, perfect example of where marketing, led us into behaviors we would not normally have done. So just think about that when you're consumers too. It's like, am I being talked into caring about this, or is this really important that I do this?
Yeah,
So
or the next time you see
That's
Santa
a
Claus.
great point because when I see people now, and my wife always jokes about this with me. When I see people's teeth and they're not straight or white, I'm always wondering why did they not take care of that, especially if they're on television or
uh-huh.
they're a
Look at
politician.
old movies. Look at
Yeah.
old movies. Movies before like the 90s. Nobody has teeth like that you could sort of it'd be a beacon at night, so you could land planes by them. Nobody had teeth like that. And so it was a completely developed market. And kudos to the people that did that, but nevertheless, keep that in mind as savvy consumers.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again. These are just nuggets of wisdom that you just don't get every day. So we really appreciate that. All right, then we'll move on now to our closing. This has been a very informative day. I really appreciate all the facilitators who've been with us so far. So now your mission candidates, potential candidates, is really we want you to do an exercise of sitting down and thinking about all of your network, right? Your family and friends, your co-workers, your organizations and people in the community, all people who you think will support you, right? I want you to sit down and write those out. Write down Cousin Joe. I know Cousin Joe is good for $100. I know Aunt Martha, she probably give me $100. I know the guy down the block that I helped, put up his hang up his Christmas lights last year. I know he'll probably give me $100. I'm in the fraternity. I know my fraternity brothers will give me something, a couple dollars at least. So I want you to kind of map out all of your network and how you can raise not only support but raise money as well. Again, ask yourself these questions. Who believes in your vision? Who would volunteer time to work for you, right? And who have influence in your community that you know, and who could provide resources that you need, either information, money, or just really the support. So just think about that. And as an extra credit, we'd like for you to find a local politician, preferably one that's holding an office that you care to run for one day, and just do a quick 10-minute interview with them if you get an opportunity to, just to ask them about their journey, how they get elected, what motivated them, and what keeps them, what drives them right now. So kind of give you some insight into what you'd be up to if you were to get elected. And above all, make sure you click on these candidate resource kit. You should have a link with this presentation, and almost on every slide there is a link to a resource kit that has tons of information, filing deadlines, all kind of templates you can use. There are all kind of things that you can take advantage of. So I beg of you, please take advantage of that resource kit. And our next meeting is going to be Saturday, October 4th. From 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Southeastern Livewell Center. That's at 5101 Market Street in San Diego, right there on the corner of Euclid and Market. Lovely facility. So we love to see you come back out and go with our facilitators for that. Will be myself, Mr. Rob Howard, and Mr. Will Rodriguez Kennedy. You are certainly in for a treat. He is a passionate bastion of knowledge. So be sure to check us out on October 4th. Are there any questions before we leave? Well, I really appreciate everybody for participating. If you see anybody else out there, make sure you pass the word. Even if they missed today, make sure they come out on October 4th to get this information. I mean, this is information that you just don't get every day, particularly at this level, from people who not just read it in a book, but people who have lived it and can give you that lived experience. So thank you again for sacrificing this evening. Thank you again to all of our facilitators. Mr. Welborne, you have something to say before we leave out?
Sorry, just one last thing. I can't find where's the link for the toolkit? Was that in our email or?
It's actually in the presentation. Like you see, it says candidate resource kit. There's all kind of links in the presentation to it.
Okay. I'm not sure if they're clickable since you're sharing your screen.
No, you should have a link to the resource kit. I mean, to the presentation.
Yeah, if this was Microsoft Teams, it would have worked.
Oh, Microsoft, here we go.
It's okay.
Okay. All right, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I'll make sure you have a copy of the presentation, Brother Welborne, and it has all the links in it.
Rod, did you want to mention that this actually was taped?
Oh,
If somebody
absolutely.
missed it?
I do. And just in case anyone missed it, I will be sending this out to everyone and making it available. The recording of this, it will be available here starting tomorrow for people to review this if they missed it today. This is some great information. Even if you were on the call today, you may want to rewind some of this to go back and get some of this information because it was so impactful. So thank you for pointing that out. And we will make this available here coming up shortly for review. Again, thank each and every one of you, and we look forward to seeing you guys on October 4th at the Livewell Center in San Diego. So much. Have a great evening.
Nice to meet you.
Cheers.
Good night.
Good night.